Who is it?
Miss Lurman?
Yes. Yes.
I was wondering, we went over our sex ed presentation today, and it didn't make sense. None of it made sense.
Did it make sense?
No, can you just go over more information with me so I understand more and have better information when it comes to my sex life?
Of course. I actually have this video that I could show you if you'd like to watch, and it's from someone who's around your age.
That would be perfect.
Perfect. And the beginning of this video actually says, it won't be scary.
Good.
Which is something a lot of teenagers believe.
Greetings, audience. My name is Thea. I'm a high school student, and today we're going to talk about sex. Operating on the assumption that you're human, you've almost certainly heard of sex. In case you haven't, to get you up to speed, sex is the process by which many organisms ensure their continued existence. Here's the thing though, sex is more complicated than that, because spoiler alert, humans are complicated. So how do we learn about sex if it's so complicated? You might remember sex education like this. Urban Dictionary.
Now, Sam, is that what sex ed made you feel like?
Yeah.
Based off of how we have to teach it in America?
Yeah.
I agree that it's not very good. That is actually why I'm planning on doing an assembly to go over sex education better.
A lot of my friends had a lot of questions.
Good.
And a lot of them just did not understand what we went over in class, and we felt like it was very overgeneralized.
Well, good. Hopefully at the assembly that we're going to have in a few weeks, you and your friends will have a better understanding of a lot of different aspects of sexual education. It is a very important part of your development, and you should definitely understand how to proceed with it in a safe way. Would you like to finish the video?
Yes.
Your source for news and information about the 21st century zeitgeist describes sex education as, quote, where they try to scare you out of having sex with pictures of diseased genitals. A more hopeful description of sex education would be something like a lifelong process of learning about sex and sexuality, exploring values and beliefs, and gaining skills to navigate relationships and manage your sexual health. This, as far as I'm concerned, is a solid definition. So what can we do to make sex education something that teens find actually, educational? Clearly, teens need answers to their questions. So where do people go when they have questions?
Yeah.
Listen, I love the internet. It's one of the greatest developments in the exchange of information in all of human history. But much of what it says about sexual health is not accurate by any stretch of the imagination, or is so laden with bias that it feels more like being pelted with judgment than actually receiving information. Unfortunately, not every teen is willing and able to chat it up with their parents about sex, so if not always the internet, where can teens turn? Enter the peer educator. People my age do indeed talk to each other about sex, so when teens are sources of accurate information, it spreads among us quickly. As a peer educator, I belong to a program that gives me the tools to learn about everything from STIs and safe sex to contraception.
You would also be a peer educator after having this one-on-one meeting and conversation with me today. And you can also spread information about the assembly that's coming up.
And consent. Basically, I can tell you more about human sexuality than the average adult. When teens see someone like me instead of someone decades older, they are quite receptive to the information I have to offer them. At lunch once, some friends wanted to know the difference between hormonal and copper IUDs. So I brought this to the table. Another day, my teacher didn't understand how emergency contraception works, so I explained it to the class. So what does it look like when teens approach me with questions about sexual health? It goes something like this. Venereal disease? STD? STI? This terminology, it baffles me. STI stands for sexually transmitted infection. We used to say STD, which stood for sexually transmitted disease, but it was changed recently because STI is a more medically accurate term, and taking away the big scary word disease helps decrease
This
stigma.
is why it should not be scary.
What the heck is trichomoniasis?
It is very common to get these, but sex education should teach you safe ways in order to not get them, because nobody wants them.
Like condoms.
Exactly. And did you learn about them in sex ed?
No.
No, because did you have to leave the room?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's right. We are all human.
The boys had to leave the room for the period talk too.
And I think they should have to listen to that, because they too might have a sister, a wife, a girlfriend, a cousin, an aunt that they're close with, and they might need to learn about it. This is also why I want to have an assembly.
Trichomoniasis is an STI usually spread through vaginal intercourse. It is curable with just one dose of an oral drug. Common symptoms, regardless of a person's sex, are unusual discharge, painful urination, and itching, but it spreads really quickly because most of the time it's asymptomatic, which means people don't realize they have it. That's why it's so important to get tested regularly. Is it okay to be gay? Yes, all people of all identities and backgrounds, including on the LGBTQ+ spectrum, can lead healthy and productive lives. Regardless of your beliefs, everyone has the right to
Now,
explore
Sam,
and
if you
express
ever
their
need to
sexuality.
talk about your sexual orientation and the development on that because you're confused or experimenting or just going through life, because this is a perfectly normal part of your development, you're more than welcome to come to me. Your family is more than welcome to talk to you about it, or your friends. You should never be scared to be open about that with anybody. It is completely normal.
Often, when my peers approach me with questions like these, seeking this or that piece of information, at least a sliver of what they're wondering is, am I normal? So let's talk about normal. Part of the point of peer education is to give teens the opportunity to understand that there is no such thing as the elusive normal. Peer educators are here to say that armed with information that empowers you to make informed decisions, you are going to be okay. Normal isn't really necessary. When you can get accurate, judgment-free information from your peers, you realize that sex ed doesn't have to be scary. So instead of striving to be normal, let's talk to each other. Since peer education allows sex ed to reach the community in ways that go far beyond pictures of diseased genitals, it turns out to be pretty brilliant. An idea that, unlike trichomoniasis, is certainly...
Now, I don't know what trichomoniasis is, Sam, but do you have any questions for me? Did this help? Do you feel more comfortable and more prepared with learning about sex ed?
I definitely feel very much more educated than when I did when they made everyone leave the room for the different talks.
Good. And do you think you too could be a peer educator?
Yes.
Good. Maybe we should look more into that. And I really appreciate you coming and talking to me today.
Thank you for giving me your time.
Of course.